Hello and welcome to this edition of the Farrell Phelps Show. We have an exciting show today, one that's actually been anticipated. We have an all-male group here as we talk about relationships. We have Kelvin Pierre. We have, Mr. Rock Living. And Philip Kent. Welcome to the show, guys. Absolutely, absolutely. Now, one of the hot topics is relationships. And I want to do a show where it was all men so that women can get the perspective of the brothers, if that makes any sense to you. Because you have so many women talking about finding a good man is hard to find, this, that, and the other. So, we're going to start with you, Pierre. What defines a good man?
What defines a good man? Well, I'm going to have to base it on the Word of God because I'm a godly man first. And a man has to have, I believe, Christ in his life. I always tell people there's two kind of men. There's a just man and just a man. A just a man, would do anything, but a just man won't.
Mm-hmm.
And a good man is a man that's going to provide for his family, going to protect his family, and be there for his family no matter what the cost. Almost to lay his life down for him.
Right.
If necessary.
Absolutely. All right, Rock, I want to pose the same question to you.
Okay. Well, to kind of piggyback off of what Brother said, I would have to say spiritual foundation. You have to have a spiritual foundation, regardless of what you believe, how you choose to believe, how you choose to identify with God. That spiritual foundation has to be there, because that's what you are. You are God.
All right. All right, now, Mr. Kent, same question.
Well, I guess I'll be the devil's advocate. I know some men that are not really spiritual men,
Mm-hmm.
but they are good men. Everybody don't believe in Christ. Of course I do, but I have no opinion against who they believe in. However, I consider them to be a good man. The way they treat their family, character is very important.
Right.
Humility is very important, and then responsibility is very important. And you have some spiritual men that don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
So just because he believes in God, because he goes to church, doesn't necessarily mean that he may be the right man for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And a lot of times you hear women say they want a godly man, or they want a man that's in church, but just a man being in church don't make him a good man.
Right.
I mean, and this show is about keeping it real.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, and I know this based on friends that I've had and things like that, they get excited, oh, he's in church, he's in da-da-da. But that's the biggest devil sometimes. And I'm just being honest.
Right.
So being in church does not make you necessarily a good man. What makes you a good man is your character.
Right.
And if you have the spiritual foundation, which you guys spoke about earlier, that's the important thing.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of devils in church.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And again, I'm just keeping it real.
Yeah.
And I know Kelvin, and I also know that Philip know that very well, because both of these guys, we didn't say it, but they're both ministers in ministry.
Right.
And so you guys see a lot of stuff happening probably in the church.
Of course.
And by y'all being some good-looking brothers, I'm sure women probably try to holler at y'all sometimes too.
Of course.
Or sit on the front row and have on a skirt and these types of things. This is real.
Yeah.
No, I'm telling y'all what I done seen myself.
Mm-hmm.
So y'all have to guard yourselves a certain way.
Of course.
I'm certain. So let me ask you, and I'll start with you, Kelvin. What kind of boundaries do you place on yourself when it comes to operating in the church?
Okay, can I back
And
up?
being the married man that you are.
Okay, I'm going to back up just a little bit because you were saying about devils in church. You have a lot of men that go to church just to find that good woman, that godly woman. And they may not be godly at all, but they know they have a better chance if they go to church. I might can find that good woman, that godly woman. And that's where you come in when you say a lot of devils go to church. But anyway, for the boundaries that I set on myself as a godly man is that I don't go certain places, or I don't put myself in a company of a woman that I may feel like she's attracted to me, and then I won't put myself in her company. Won't go to lunch with her, won't have coffee. So you got to protect yourself at all costs. And if it's someone wanting to be counseled, then I bring my wife in. Let's go and talk to her and let's counsel her together. So you got to always be
I totally agree. And Philip, same thing for yourself.
Well, it's kind of piggybacking off of what he said. You never put yourself in a compromising position. If there is a female that needs counseling, I always have somebody there with me. I have executive administrators, and I, of course, have my wife, and I have my secretary. I have different people that can come and kind of be that second set of eyes, so that nothing complicated can come out of, well, this happened behind closed doors. Social media is another weapon against pastors and preachers and ministers. You can't get into a communication text back and forth to try to solve a problem and get personal, with that conversation, because it can be looked at in a totally different light than what you really was trying to, bring across and get results from. So you have to really be careful, where you put yourself into, as far as being in the middle of a situation that, may be a little creepy, because there are some attractive women that you're going to have to counsel, and there are some women that are sexy, that you're going to have to counsel. But you have to first make sure that you protect yourself by bringing other people in, and you don't have that private relationship outside of that counseling, arena. And I think a lot of pastors, and we see them every day on the news, and if you can't learn from those mistakes, then there's something wrong with you.
Absolutely. And a lot of times history repeats itself. The same thing that you see and witness in the news and see happening in churches and with pastors particularly, it tends to repeat itself. Down the line, down the line, down the line. And a lot of times it's because boundaries haven't been set. And what's important in relationships, and that's what we're talking about, is having particular boundaries that keep you safe from something tainting your relationship and causing its demise. Now, I know both of you guys are married. Now, Rock, you're currently going through a divorce.
Yes.
Now, tell me what, from your perspective, has been one of the causes, perhaps, of your separation?
The main cause would be ineffective communication. That was a huge downfall for me. And I fault both of us for it. It wasn't one-sided. It's the way you communicate with your spouse plays a big part in it. You have to have respectful communication. You have to get away from getting so emotionally drawn into expressing your feelings, and to the point to where you become verbally abusive. That, for some, you don't know what a person has gone through in their past that will cause them to just totally withdraw and pull away from you. And sometimes that's hard to get back. To get back into that. And then for that verbal abuse to get to a point of being physical, which was in my case, where I was not the aggressor, and for a woman to put her hands on a man, woo! Yeah, I had to.
That's when you have to be a man.
Yeah, exactly.
As best you can.
I'm thankful. I'm thankful that I had my spiritual foundation that caused me to not react emotionally, or else I wouldn't be here today. Just being honest. I wouldn't be here today had I reacted the way my ego wanted to. So with all that said, it all stemmed from ineffective communication.
Ineffective. And we all know that communication is certainly the key to a successful relationship. And when we learn to communicate effectively, then success certainly is at hand in the relationships that we have. We're going to be back in just a moment with more of our men. We're having a wonderful dialogue. You guys stick around. We'll be back in just a moment.
SkyTrues Custom Eyewear has taken the world by storm. In only 8 months, SkyTrues has gained the eyes of many, including celebs like Big Sean, Little Flip, Destiny's Child, Soldier Boy, just to name a few. Through custom design, SkyTruths can put your imagination on your frames. I bring to you the next big thing in Houston, SkyTruths, created by Golden Boy, the musician, the artist, the entrepreneur, and grassroots marketing genius. Be inspired. SkyTruths, custom designed frames. SkyTruths!
All right, welcome back to this edition of the Farrell Phelps Show with my all-male panel today. We are talking about relationships, what makes them work, what causes them to fail. Now, when we left off, we were talking to Rock Living about communication and the importance of communication.
Yes.
So, what have you learned from that relationship?
One of the biggest lessons I learned was to be open and honest about your communication. As far as, if you feel as if you have something to hide, that's probably the thing you need to get out the most. As far as, the respect with communication. I'm one of the most peaceful guys you'll ever meet. But when you're with someone who has a volatile nature, you have to, sometimes you want to cross the line and match them and match their volatility. And that's not the thing to do because it's two negatives. So you'll never reach a solution. And for me, I let myself go there once with her. And I felt bad. I stepped outside of me. But I felt as if it was necessary so she can see that I could go there. But at the same time, I had to think about, okay, what are we resolving? What are we resolving? So ultimately, I just stepped away and said, okay, let's just give this time to dissipate and let's get back to an even temperament to where we can actually talk and communicate at a respectful level.
Right.
So,
And maintain that and keep it that way.
exactly.
Yeah. And now when you mentioned putting your hands on someone,
Right.
one of the things that, we're going to talk about what I call a deal breaker.
Got you. Okay.
There are certain things that are deal breakers. Don't
Yes.
touch me.
Yes. In a threatening manner.
Well, yeah, exactly. if to touch me with love. If you're going to touch me, let it be love.
Yeah.
Right.
And let it be a loving touch. A gentle touch.
Right.
Yeah,
A stroke.
yeah,
A rub.
yeah.
Caress.
A caress. Come on now. But don't hit me.
No.
Right.
Don't hit me.
Don't put your
And
hands around my neck.
don't choke me. You know. And the thing is, a lot of times, and I've heard women say this, and I just have to get this out. And what's interesting, I have a female friend who actually, we never agree on anything, but she actually agrees with me on this. Women, you should never hit a man unless you expect to be hit back. Now, I'm not saying men go out there and beat the women up. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But remember, when you striking somebody that you know is bigger than you,
Yeah.
that you know can bring you harm,
Yeah, yeah,
don't do that.
yeah.
Because you don't know what that knee-jerk reaction could be.
That's right.
True that.
So, it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be upset.
Right.
It's okay to vocalize what it is that concerns you. It's okay to raise your voice every now and again. That's real life.
Right.
And that happens in relationship. But you don't strike somebody.
Right.
You do not strike someone.
Right.
And I was really shocked that she understood what I was saying. Because Tammy Thompson just don't always, she's not always that person that understands. But when she said that, I'm like, Tammy Thompson knows what she's talking. She said something that I was like, wow, this girl is off the top. Hey. So, and I know that she's talked to her boys. She has two sons that she's talked to about females hitting them, and just don't hit nobody.
Right.
Yeah.
Just don't hit nobody. That's so you hear a lot of women say, a good man is hard to find. Define a good man.
Well, I don't necessarily think that a good man is hard to find for one, because most time, if women would be patient, that man would find them. I've been married for 23 years, and I happen to be blessed to be married to my high school sweetheart, and we've been through some ups and downs.
Okay.
But when I saw her at that high school and the beauty in her, it took me 2 years to get, close to her,
Mhm.
for one. And the key to it, what I find that women do making mistakes is the physical part of it.
Okay.
When I was in high school, it was easy to have sex
Okay.
because I was an athlete. Everybody wanted to be with that athlete.
Right.
But my wife was so different. I can remember the first time we kissed, and I tried to bring that arm up,
Mm-hmm.
towards the breast area, and she just kind of locked it down. And we didn't have sex as quick,
Mm-hmm.
as it was for me with other females.
Right.
I mean, it took probably 6 months, and I think 2 months after that we was married. So a good man is not hard to find. And as I was talking, we were doing some dialogue before this show. You have to notice the red flags,
Right.
and you can't, overlook those things.
Mm-hmm.
The red flag is the red flag. All you need is one.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah.
One red flag,
Right.
out the door, and you move forward. But if you keep saying, "Oh, well, that's just something," you're going to keep going down that road, and it's going to become problematic.
Right.
And once it become a problem, you be in so deep emotionally till it's hard for you to get out of it, because you feel like, I put so much into this relationship, I don't want to walk away from it.
Right.
And women, you cannot change a man.
And you know what? You couldn't have said that better. And so often you see women trying to change a man.
Of course.
They'll get a man and they'll think, okay, oh, I like him. Okay, I'm going to try and change this about him. Or they'll tell the man, I accept you as you are.
Right.
But once you're locked in, they begin to try and change you from the person that you were. And I don't think that's fair, and I don't think it's right.
Yeah.
And it goes back to communication and effective communication, because what ends up happening is when they're acting like you're wonderful and they accept you as you are, they're actually lying to you.
Of course.
And anything built on sand is going to fall apart.
Fall apart.
And
That's right.
lies are built on sand.
Of course.
Eventually, it's going to crumble.
Yeah.
That's just telling it the way it is.
Yeah.
It's going to crumble. So I think it's important that you build things on a solid foundation.
Right.
So let's talk about the onset of a relationship in the beginning. What are some of the things that you began to build upon early on in your relationship? And I'm going to ask you, Pierre.
It's a good question. Fortunate enough, when I met my wife, I was saved. I got saved, and probably a couple of years prior to me meeting her. So of course, I was in church and Bible study, and the Word, hearing the Word every week, 2 times a week. My foundation started to build. Once I got saved, and I'm taking in the Word of God, and that helped me out tremendously when I met my wife, because when I met her, she was a Christian also. But prior to that, I had prayed for a wife.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's the simple things that in relationships that when we're looking for a mate, we don't think to pray for one.
Of course.
Okay.
We pray about everything else,
But that.
but we don't pray about, a mate.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. And that's important to do. Not only pray about the mate, but wait after you pray.
Absolutely.
And don't jump on the first train moving.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of times people tend to do that. I prayed about it, Lord. Oh, that's her. Let me jump on that. Come on now.
No, you can't do that.
You're going to get derailed.
That's
That's
right.
right.
When you jump on the first train coming. Man, needless to say, I'm enjoying this dialogue. And I know you brothers are enjoying this dialogue too. We're going to be back in just a moment. You guys stick around. We'll be back. All right, welcome back to our relationship show. We are having such good dialogue, man. I'm enjoying this dialogue. I could talk to these brothers all day long. Everybody got something to say.
Right.
Now when we talk about relationships and deal breakers in relationships, let's talk about red flags. and things that we see prior to getting involved in that relationship. Now, Rock, I'm going to come to you with that.
Okay.
What are some of the red flags that you may have seen that you might have missed, that you missed when you got completely involved? Or did you see
Well,
red flags?
I ignored it initially, but the first thing that I remember seeing was her relationship with her father. That right there, had I seen that prior to being intimately involved with her, I probably wouldn't have gotten intimately involved with her. You know, because hearing the way she spoke to her father, it bothered me. You know, and to hear her, I mean, I can tell that her father didn't respond because I was there. He didn't respond the way he may have wanted to, you know, because he was being respectful, you know. And just to hear her go at him like that, I was like, okay, what the hell am I getting into? But I ignored it. I was too busy feeling.
Yeah.
You know, I was into my feelings for her and not really thinking about what I'm getting into.
Yeah, I think that's a very good answer. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know, and that's one of the things that I think is important for us to pay attention to in relationships. When we look at how our potential partner is treating their mother or their father.
Right.
You know, and a lot of times if you want to know how a man will treat you, look at how he treats his mother.
Right.
A lot of times you can see something. Now that's not 100%. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But it should give you some kind of clue and
Right.
some kind of direction.
Cool.
Now, when we talk about relationships, needless to say, there are so many dynamics to relationships, and I think it's very important for girls to see how their fathers treat their mothers, so they'll know what to expect in relationship and know what to put up with and what not to put up with. And I think a lot of times when females come from a dysfunctional family, they end up marrying that daddy. A lot of times daughters marry their fathers. You know? So it's important as men that you operate in a way that you would want your daughter to have another brother be in her life.
Yeah.
You know? And a lot of times I think daddies kind of mess up in that area.
Right.
I'm just telling the
That's
truth.
true.
You know? Or, you know, he might cheat. He might be abusive. And then that daughter ends up in a relationship and she feel like, oh, it's okay because daddy beat mama. Beating ain't never okay
Never.
Yeah.
under any circumstances.
Of course.
Oh, daddy cheated on mama. She stayed with him, but he cheated on her. He did this on her. He did that on her, but she stayed. Now, sometimes, don't get me wrong, those things can be rectified in a relationship,
Right.
and relationships can survive this type of thing. But it takes a strong relationship to survive that type of thing.
Yes, indeed.
You know, it takes a strong relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it takes, I would say, love and commitment
Of course.
to sustain that relationship. I want to talk for a minute about deal breakers. What, and I'm going to ask you, Pierre, what's a deal breaker, or what would have been a deal breaker for you in a relationship?
In a marriage relationship?
In a marriage, absolutely.
That's a good question. I think a deal breaker would be, for me, and I think most men, but I'm going to speak for me, is when a wife cheats. That would be a deal breaker for me. Although, you know, you have to come to an agreement whether or not you're going to forgive her or you're going to just end it, you know.
Right.
And I know for males, for men, it's a hard thing to do, to forgive. Women are more forgiving than we
Yes.
are. But, you know, if you got some longevity in that relationship, I mean, forgiveness is always there, you know, and that would you just have to weigh that out, you know. But that would be a deal breaker for me.
Right, right. And you know what? One of the things that I noticed too is that in relationships, women are a lot more accepting of men that cheat, or when a man cheats on her, than it is for when it happens to us as men. Why do you think that is? I'll ask you, Rob.
Well, it goes back to that paternal environment, and it also have to blame society on that also. The images that they project out to the people, I mean, especially to our younger generation, is so over-sexualized, you know, and the way, I mean, a lot of the television shows that are out nowadays promote domestic violence, cheating, infidelity, whatever you want to phrase it as, and it seeps into their minds. It becomes a part of their subconscious to where they feel as if, okay, this behavior is acceptable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
And I'll ask you the same question, Philip.
Well, I think, honestly speaking, women are so much stronger than men.
Yes.
You know, I couldn't imagine my wife with another man.
Right.
But on the flip side of that, we've been through that because of me,
Mhm.
you know, and we were able to survive,
Okay.
not because of the children or anything else, but it was because of forgiveness.
Okay.
And of course, she never forgets it.
Right.
You know, every once in a while she'll remind me, you know, especially pastoring, you know.
Yeah.
She, you know, she's a first lady, but she's still a woman, you know,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
her mind is carnal. We're not walking in this spiritual bubble where,
Right.
you know, things just bounce off of us.
Not all the
and,
time.
You know, yeah, not all the time. And so, with that being said, you know, women are so much stronger mentally
Yeah.
than men. I mean, we're strong, as we discussed earlier in the segment, about the strength of men,
Right.
and that's the physical.
Mhm.
But when it comes to the mental,
Mental.
man, women are just astounding, you know.
Right. And I have to agree. I have to agree. And I agree because I've seen so many, and I'm just going to say African American women,
Yeah.
sisters. Not to say that it's not that across the board, you know, with our counterparts, but I have certainly seen some African American sisters who hold it down,
Hold it down.
for their family.
Yes.
You know, through the thick and the thin, through the man doing A, B, C, and D.
Yeah.
I mean, if they go out and get 2 or 3 jobs when the husband's off on drugs
course.
or whatever the situation or circumstance, I have seen some strong black women, and I want to applaud all of you strong black because that's it. And you know what? That's what I would want, is a strong black woman.
Of course.
A woman that will hold it down for me during those times that might not be so good in my life. That's very important. You know, man, this conversation is
Yeah,
good.
it's real.
This conversation is good. This conversation is real. Now, I want to ask you guys, how important is listening in a relationship?
Listen, I think that's one of the one of the keys to a healthy marriage is to have a listening ear. Because I think the way women are built, women like to talk, they like to express themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And if you got a husband or someone you're dating that's not listening, then that's going to make her feel like, hey, this guy doesn't care. I mean, he's not the one for me. I think that would be a deal breaker early on in a relationship.
Absolutely.
If this guy's not listening to what she has to say. So it's very important, I think.
Of course. Yeah.
Right. Listening. And you know, when you listen, you have to hear.
Mhm.
You don't just listen, but you have to hear what that person is saying.
Right.
And you have to try to understand it and put yourself in their position and where they are so that you can feel what they're feeling when they're trying to convey a message
Of
to you.
course, absolutely.
And as men, sometimes we miss it.
Yeah.
Of course.
Or we can brush it off. It's like, oh, come on, yeah.
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 But take that moment to listen,
Yes, true.
because it could cause the demise of your relationship,
Of course.
or it can enhance your relationship.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and I have to just say this little bit right here. Sometimes women, and it's not across the board, but women, sometimes you just have to be quiet
Yeah.
and listen. You don't always have to. You don't always have to raise your voice and make sure that you're heard. A smart woman will sit back and say the things that she needs to say at the right time. Just listen. It's not that hard to do.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's very unattractive when you got a big mouth
Mhm.
and you constantly have to say your opinion
Mhm.
and you constantly have to be in a man's face.
Yeah.
It's so not necessary. Just listen to the brother.
Yeah.
Just listen and try to listen with an understanding heart. We're going to be back in just a moment and continue this dialogue. You guys stick around. We'll be back in just a moment.
Sky Trues Custom Eyewear has taken the world by storm. In only 8 months, Sky Trues has gained the eyes of many, including celebs like Big Sean, Little Flip, Destiny's Child, Soulja Boy, just to name a few. Through custom design, Sky Trues can put your imagination on your frames. I bring to you the next big thing in Houston, Sky Truths, created by Golden Boy, the musician, the artist, the entrepreneur, and grassroots marketing genius. Be inspired. Sky Truths, custom designed frames. Sky Truths!
All right, welcome back to this edition of the Farrell Phillips Show with my all-male panel of guests today. We are talking about a hot topic, relationships. And man, is it getting heated in here. And what I realized with these types of shows, it's kind of hard to keep the intensity down because everybody has an opinion. And an opinion is just like, you know, we all got an opinion. But at any rate, we want to touch on finances in relationships. I want to talk, and I think I was talking to you, Mr. Phillip, about relationships. If the wife perhaps makes more money than the man in the relationship, is that going to be an issue in that relationship?
Well, you know, in some maybe, but in mine personally, my wife is now making more money than myself because I chose to be a school teacher. And we've been all over the world because of the job that she has, you know, and it's been a blessing to go, and we've done it for free because she works at this company and she makes good money. Now, when we first met, we didn't have anything. So a lot of times you can meet into a situation to where you love somebody and you marry them for love.
Right.
Because when money starts getting involved into your relationship, what happens when there's no money?
Absolutely.
During the tough times. And so we've lived in an apartment that was 1 bedroom, and then when the rent went up $5 for a year, we went up to another apartment, and you know, we've been blessed with a home, and you know, finances is a deal breaker in some relationships depending on the connection. But with me personally, when we met, we was broke. So you know, the family, you know, surrounded us and was able to sustain us through that complicated time. And as time went on, of course, things have gotten better. But if you go into a relationship, and this is my opinion, of course, and finances is involved, and that's one of the deal breakers, then you're never going to have a successful relationship because anything can happen. You can have a health issue. You can have a layoff. You think about Enron and all those people who lost their jobs. You think about the economy crashing.
Absolutely.
And so there are so many elements that can take away from your relationship if finances is the key. Of course, we all want money. You know, the Bible says that money is a good thing because it answereth all things. But then it also says the love of it is the root to all evil. So if you love money and that's what you're in that relationship for, then the only thing, the results from that is going to be evil.
I think you have to have certain things in place and also understand too, like with the man being the head of the house. So even if the woman might make more money than the man, if the man is the person who knows how to handle the finances that she brings in to make that work for the family, I think that's something that we need to look at too. And not just look at necessarily who's when. You know what? This is something that's always come up in relationships. And I think it's the stupidest thing. It cracks me up every time I hear it. The toilet seat. Rock, how important is the toilet seat?
Well, this is my theory behind it. If the toilet seat is up, at least you know it's clean. It wasn't sprinkled on. You know? So while you're arguing about it, you can just set it down and you don't have to worry about wiping it off. Because it's clean. It was up. Now, I mean, in the middle of the night, if it happens to you, it's up. I'm just saying. Now, I mean, I will be respectful in the middle of the night if I happen to go. I'll go ahead and put it back down because if she has to go afterwards, she may fall in. You know, so, and you don't want that to happen. But if it's broad daylight, just put the seat down.
And you know what? That's a simple thing. Exactly. You know, and my thought on that when I hear it, of course I think it's stupid as I don't know what. I really do. But if it's up, when you go in, just put it down. That's it. You know, when you hear people arguing about something as frivolous as that, it's like, really? I mean, come on, that's the other stuff we can be fighting about beside the toilet seat. Because you're going to use it one way or another. Gotta go right now. You You got to do the thing. Because you're human. You know, I'm just making somebody this really intense conversation. Now, I know we got some questions from some of you guys in the audience. I'm going to start with you, young lady.
I have a question especially for the men. How does a woman know that a man loves her? Men love differently than women. So what are the signs that a woman should see in a man to know that he loves her?
I got that. And I'm sure we all have that. But I say this all the time. Don't pay attention to what I say. Pay attention to what I do.
Of course.
If I tell you I love you, I'm going to treat you in a way that you know I love you. I'm going to look out for you. I'm going to think about you when you've forgotten to think about yourself. I'm going to put the gas in your car. I'm going to possibly wash your car. Might even wash your drawers.
Put the toilet seat down.
Might even put the toilet, all that. That might not happen. But I'm simply saying that pay attention to how that person treats you who claim that they love you. Because love to me is an action word. Love is an action word. You can say something all day long, but it's how you treat me that lets me know who you really are. So pay attention to how that person is treating you. I'd like to ask you, Pierre, what would be your answer for that? How would a woman know?
Well, you summed it up pretty good, but I can add some more to it because love is an action, and it's based on how that man is treating you, or that husband is treating you. He have your well-being at heart. You know, certain things you don't even have to ask him to do. He's going to do it out of love because it's action. You know, sometimes women, wives have to ask the husband, take out the trash. Can you clean the bathtub? Can you do this? Can you do that? All that is an expression of love. I want to make sure everything is done where you won't have to do it. I put gas in my wife's car. You know, sometimes she'll tell me, can you put gas in the car? You know, it might be 7 o'clock that morning. I'm still in the bed and she get ready to go. Like, I asked, why didn't you tell me that last night? You know, I would have did it last night, but I'll still go ahead and do it, you know, because I love her. I don't want her to go trying to pump gas, she in a hurry, what have you. But it's just the things that men do. You're going to know he loves you because of the things he do. Not so much what he say, like Mr. Phelps said, but his actions. Yeah. You know, you won't have to question it.
And Rob?
Well, love is energy. You know, it's action, but it's energy in the form of thought, feeling, and action. So, with that being said, pay attention to what he's doing that you may not notice right away. Pay attention to, don't look for it, don't expect it in a certain way. You know, because if you're loving someone and you're attaching the expectation to it, then you have that attachment. But if you just love that person unconditionally, you'll see what all they're doing. That may be making life easier for you, making you more comfortable, and just overall making you feel better. Make you feel as if you are evolving as a person.
Philip, I'll ask you the same question.
I want to bring a little humor to it.
Do that.
Come on.
If a man share his plate with you, he love you. When a man starts sharing with you like you share with him,
Yes.
that's love. Because most men, you know, when I go out to eat, you know, I get all this food and my wife sit there with a little plate. She may be still hungry. and she's, you know, I'm not full. You know? I'm not talking about I'm full and I'm sharing.
Right.
I'm talking about I'm still hungry still, you know. And I slide that plate over to her and I say, hey, babe, you want some of this? And sure, you know. So when a man really, truly, honestly starts sharing like a woman share, you know, then you know it's truly love.
Right.
You know, and I think that's not.
I totally agree with you. I think that it's important that when you ask that question, you know, how do you know about if somebody cares about you? Again, it's always what they show you, but don't ignore the signs of what you don't see with them.
Right.
If you see it, run from that. I mean, run from it if you see it. But a lot of times we ignore the signs, and we see all the signs. It's like you see a red light, you know it means stop, but you pretend it's a green light, and you go on through it and have a train wreck.
Right.
When you see the sign, stop. Now we got one more question from an audience member, Darshell.
I wanted to ask the men, if you've had an incident of infidelity, or if you know of men that have done that, how would you suggest that a man repair the relationship, or how do you suggest a woman receive him? How do you suggest that be fixed? Can it be?
I think you should answer that if you don't mind. I mean, you dealt with it. I mean,
Well, because I've dealt with it on a personal basis doesn't mean that it's going to work the same for each relationship. It definitely depends on, the person that's been, I guess you can say sinned against. And it definitely depends on what you did in the beginning. A lot of stuff that kept me in that relationship is because my wife knew that I was a good guy.
Yeah.
She didn't want for anything. I took care of my house, and I took care of my children, and I made sure she didn't want for nothing. And, I treated her like she was my queen. But I did have that one setback, and I think sometimes when you look at a relationship, you should weigh the pros and the cons. And if the pros outweigh the cons, to a point to where you can say, okay, I can forgive him, then I think you should work on that relationship. I've even said, and it's hard for black men, to go to counseling. So if a man is willing to do whatever it takes to win you back and to win that trust back, counseling, I was like, I don't need no counseling, and we have a thing about going to counseling.
Right.
But that's what she wanted me to do. So I had to go to counseling, and one of the things I did know that before I went to counseling, I knew what I needed to do. It wasn't, I needed somebody to tell me that.
Right.
But she just wanted to make sure that I understood that she's at the end of her wits, and she's not putting up with it no more, and this is the last straw. If you don't go to counseling, we're not going to be together. And so a man has to learn, first of all, to do whatever that woman wants him to do to get that trust back. And the man has to have the humility enough to have the patience, because it was every day for I think a year. It was brought up to me, and that can be just, it
can wear you out, right?
It can alter your mind, man.
Yeah.
And so I had a pastor, that was kind of helping me through the situation. He said, you're going to have to be patient. She's going to bring it up. Even when you probably in the midst of having sex, she might bring it up. So you have to be able to say, okay, I'm going to deal with it and move forward, because for the first 2 months, I didn't think I was going to make it.
Right.
I didn't think I was going to make it. I just couldn't take the, right. But eventually, I prayed, and God kind of gave me that humility, and I was able to sit back and listen to it and hear her complaints, and then make that change.
Right. And I think that's the key.
well put.
Man, you know what? What I've enjoyed most of all about this dialogue and this conversation with the all-male panel is that, I'm going to say it from a hip perspective, they kept it 100.
Yeah.
They kept it real.
Yeah.
They told the truth. Pierre, awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Rock, thank you so much. Mr. Kent, thank you so much. We definitely want to revisit the relationship show, because I think there's so much more left to be said as it relates to relationships. I want to thank you guys so much for joining me on this edition of the Farrell Phelps Show. You can certainly reach me at Let's Talk About It 12TV at gmail.com. That's Let's Talk About It 12TV at gmail.com. You can also go to our YouTube channel. You simply go to YouTube, type in the name Farrell Phelps. An entire listing of all of our shows are right there for your viewing pleasure. All right, until next time, folks, we'll see you then.